All right, everyone, this is Tim, this New York Giants Truck, brought to you by the Mighty FanDuel on the Believe Network. I'm not going to say anything, but I think a lot of people already know who this gentleman is in the corner. Two-time Super Bowl champion, college football Hall of Famer, 30-year national broadcaster, ABC Sports, Fox News, ESPN, senior business executive, and soon-to-be author, the one, the only, also part of the New York Giants 100 greatest players. It's Gary Reasons. Gary, welcome.
Good morning.
We love to have when people show up. We love to have guests. And when we have someone with such as a pedigree that you have, it's always an honor.
Oh, it's fun. It's good to be here. Good to talk to Giants fans specifically. And well, good morning. I'll let the cat out of the bag. I'm in Texas, okay, and that's where I live. So a lot of people don't really get a hold of that, but I'm here in the grand state of Texas where I grew up, and back in the backyard of the Dallas Cowboys. So we'll talk about that in a minute. But good morning, everybody.
It was I want to get into a bunch of things. I also want to get into your new book, Reasons to Believe, which is going to be out March 24th on Amazon. I had a surreal moment the other day because someone on Twitter or X, whatever it's called now, I guess, reached out to Gary. I posted something about Gary about coming on the show, and Gary was like, sure. So I sent an email, and I'm driving the car, I'm talking to someone on the phone, and then the phone rings a couple minutes later, and I'm like, jokingly, I see Texas, and I thought it was Funky Town, who's in the chat right now, who just dropped the 5 online Big Blue memberships. And I go to Funky Town, I thought it was Funky Town, and I hear the voice, "Hey Tim, this is Gary Reasons." It was a surreal moment because of the fact that everyone remembers the hit. I mean, I still have palpitations over the fake punt. It's just one of those things. And I told Gary, I said, this was a part of my childhood, towards the end of my childhood in '86, that would always, especially the hit in Denver, that always stuck in my mind. And it was just an honor and a privilege to have you call. I got to get to Trent. Says, have a good show, Tim. Getting ready to go to church. Also want to just make sure we acknowledge Talk with Zoe. Big Davey says, I remember, well, his name is Gary. Gary Reason's always been accused by Tez Riesenberg. I guess that's going to be. Grand Rising, everyone. Big Greg, all the way in from Sweden, says, Tim, you're doing the hair right today. Happy day, everyone. Is Irishman, or better known as St. Patrick's Day. We want to make sure we get to Trenton. We got the Giants are getting stronger every day. Calculated Giant free agency and at least 2 more solid additions. We're going to talk about the Giants a little bit later, but we got Gary. And it's Gary, guys. It's Gary freaking Reasons. We also have Mike Lee saying, smash the like button on the way in. Go Redmond. Of course, St. Johnny's. I was at the game last night. The Johnnies took it big. Gary, you are listed right now as, like we've said before, one of the top 100 greatest Giants. You come from a small school in Texas. Your playing career kind of mirrored mine in college, except you had talent and I didn't. You literally, you've done so much throughout your career. You've done so much in the sports world. You've done so much in the business world that you came up with a philosophy, that you came up with a moniker, the Reasons to Believe leadership platform. And you have a book coming out that is to me, I can't wait till it comes out on March 24th. It's not just a sports book. It's a book that it teaches about leadership. It teaches about it has the sports flavor, of course. So yeah. Giant fans, make sure you know that as well. But we're gonna put the cover up here real quick. But you have a thought process. You have a rationale. You have what you refer to as the Yes Frame Network. The framework. Can you just kind of go into a little bit exactly what is the Reasons to Believe leadership platform and how it kind of came about?
Yeah, it really is. And it's really been special for me because you take a look at, my sports career. When you talk about 9 years in the National Football League, couple Super Bowl championships with the Giants, the tutelage by a couple of great mentor coaches, be it Bill Parcells and Bill Belichick. That's just getting me started. Okay. That followed on a collegiate career where I was the first ever 3-time All-American at my University, Northwestern State, and 4th round draft pick of the Giants. So it really kind of, the football is really the engine of getting things started. And then when I stepped out of the game, I really stepped into a really unique line of work. And that's in the broadcast booth. So being a college football TV analyst, started with ABC Sports, covered the country for a number of years. And then I joined Fox and So it's been a cool ride for me to be able to be a part of the game for so long and be a voice of the game and share insights and really some stories and things that people just may not necessarily know or see, but still bring a different perspective and point of view to the game. And then thirdly, in my career, my business career as well, been a senior business executive in the technology space, in the healthcare space for the past 20 years. And so it's given me a lot of things to latch onto. All of that combined, there's something that really is kind of driving me to, at this point of my life, is to be in a give mode, in a give back mode. And really what that means is I want to transfer knowledge. I want to share what I've known and what I've gathered over the course of my career in the different three arenas that I've been in. And I share about that in the book. And it really is stories about sports, stories from the broadcast booth, and stories about different leadership traits, but they're all carried out there. And so when you look at this book and you read it, you're going to have so many takeaways. The takeaways are about certain little topics. And they're simple, they're not hard, and it's a good, easy read. I really wanted to design it that way. There's a few football stories. Bill Parcells was very, very gracious to write a forward for me on this book, and I appreciate Bill in doing that. When you talk about his mentorship and really what he was about, I've instilled a lot of that in me as me moving forward. So there's nothing wrong with passing what you've learned in a positive way forward to others. Now, you talk about the things that I've talked about with reasons to believe. It's actually a trademark business platform that I've created. And inside of that, I've created a thing called the YES framework. And the YES framework is really just it's a tool that I think will move forward for people to create an ability to plan and to gauge and try to understand how to achieve things. And so it's a goal setting opportunity. So when you look at the YES framework, I'll give you a quick little tease on it here. It's not YES, but it's Y over E over S. So when you look at Y, think of it as, what is your why? What is WHY? What is your goal? What's your objective? Then underneath that is E, and I set that for expectations. What are the things you have to achieve to be able to reach your why? And underneath that is the S. And the S stands for something that is very powerful, is structure. So structure are the tools and resources and things that you need to support your expectations and then ultimately meet your why. So the YES framework, it's a trademark platform that I have now, and I'm going to be hopefully bringing that into the education space in the very, very near term, and hopefully start that in grade school, even into middle school and high school for youth to be able to use this framework. And I've got a program that's developed already in the works, and I'm going to hopefully be bringing that out. So I've got some things moving here with this, not only with the book, but the reasons to believe framework, and also the YES framework, and trying to bring a lot of value. So I'll speak, on the business corporate side. I can talk with any business organization, any company, talk to executive teams, do workshops, do all those different things that can bring value to an audience and bring a unique perspective to what they're trying to achieve. And it's all very, very basic, but I've put that all together in Reasons to Believe, and I'm proud to have it out on the 24th.
Now, we want everyone to go to the website below. We want everyone to join the Reasons to Believe launch team. Why do we want it? Because you got to get this information. You got to get this book. The book comes out on Amazon on the 24th. And if you join the team, you join Gary Reasons to Believe launch team. You enter your email address below. You get the purchase link on the day of the day of the launch, which to me, and there's a giveaway, guys. There's also
giveaways. Giveaways some jerseys and pictures and books and everything. So those are all freebies and fun parts and fun things. But really, the goal of this whole thing here is to push RTB, Reasons to Believe, the book, to #1 on Amazon. Really, Amazon bestseller status, and that's kind of the goal here. So Giants fans, get behind us. NFL fans, doesn't matter if you're not a big Blue fan, but come together and get supportive of me in this effort. And once you start looking at the book and what I've done, hopefully you're going to see yourself within that, and you're going to see how you can implement some of these things that I talk about inside of what your day-to-day is. And it's pretty cool.
I was wondering, because of the fact that, like I said, you're especially my circles, right, with the Giants section, you're known for being in the NFL. Is there any specific leadership lessons from the NFL that kind of help shape this framework?
I really think that the one thing that I set as my foundation, really from everything, is one word, and it's called preparation. Preparation is at the heart of anything that you want to do. And I really learned that lesson at a pretty good age, in my sports career. Because I was a get up and go and worker and guy, and really didn't have to have a lot of motivation to get me going. But when you start looking at preparation and what it does for you when you're in those moments that you need to really excel and achieve, and maybe it's a curveball in a sports environment or a business environment, maybe you get a little curveball. But if you're prepared, if you've put the time in, you've put the reps in, you've put the work into understanding your craft and doing the things properly, when you have that curveball, you don't worry about it. You go through it and you just execute as you've done over and over and over again in preparation, in practice of what those things are. And then you're going to be able to really move forward, and you're going to have a lot of confidence. And so confidence is one of the chapters in the book as well. There's a lot of adaptability. There's all different types of things, but preparation is really one of the top key things that I have set out. And there's a complete chapter dedicated to preparation. And I tell a very unique Giant story of how that preparation became. And I'm going to leave that tease out there. You have to go look in the book to find out the preparation story.
And you can see the link on the bottom below. You also will see the link in the chat. You will also see the link in the description. And tomorrow morning, you will also see the link, of course, in one of the most downloaded New York Giants podcasts. That's New York Giants Straight Talk on the Believe Network. We'll also have this rebroadcasted there as well, with all the link, preparation, expectation, and accountability.
Yeah, there'll be that, and there's a lot more. So you're gonna get a plethora. Their heads are gonna explode. No, not really. It's a fun, easy read, and you guys will like it.
Guys, I have to do it because I wasn't gonna play any sound effects, but I have to do it.
You say I have a plethora of piñatas?
Because anytime you bring out plethora, I gotta drop the plethora. And I love Joe Ferry's comment right here. It says, "I'm on the YouTube chat room. No one here knows how to read. When is there going to be a movie?" So no, Joe, let's get the book out first, and let's go to Gary's launch team page right now. Take you a few seconds, go fill it out, help Gary out, push the book to #1 on Amazon from when it released March 24th. And everybody knows I'm gonna talk about this.
Yeah, when you've got something that I've just created here, it's just a very simple sign up page. And then here over the next week is really when I'm going to execute, which means I'm going to contact and reach out to all of the members of the launch team with different asks, little executables of what I'm trying to achieve. And they're going to be very simple little things. Invite 2 or 3 of your friends to join the launch. Well, what does that do for the movement? If everybody does that who's on the launch team currently, then that just multiplies it, 2 to 3 or 4 times X if you just simply do that. And that helps us with this movement of our #1 mission is bring it to #1 status on Amazon. So those are kind of little fun things it'll be about, but they'll be coming out here over the course of the week to the launch team. Those instructions from me. And then obviously towards the weekend and into Monday and Tuesday of next week, there will be direction on what we're looking to do, when we're going to buy these books or to get your copy. And really it's cool because I have on Amazon the ability to set the pricing on a kickoff. And really for the digital version, the Kindle version, the electronic version, it's only $1.49.
I saw
$1.49. You can't go wrong with that. So, just go ahead and get ready to pull that down. And obviously you will have our paperback and hardcover copies available as well. But that's that. And then we have a charitable promotion that we're doing, and you can read about that on the site. And then there's a bunch of giveaways from book copies to jerseys, signed copies, everything.
Autographed.
It's all there, and it's fun. Just go to GaryReasons.com and just go to the far right tab there about the book launch, and there it is.
Well, actually, you can also just go to the link in the chat. You go to the link right here because it will take you directly to the launch page. Everyone is smart enough how to do this. Go open up another browser and do it right now.
You can do it now. I will actually hear you chime in when you join. If you hit that thing now and you go in there, and so this thing is pretty cool. I've enjoyed seeing I've got a tab in there for comments specifically for Gary, a personal message to Gary. And thank you all for the kind words that everyone has said in those messages, and they are heartfelt, and I appreciate those.
I love the one person in the chat that says the reasons for Tim's silence. Yes.
Somebody who might be able to talk a little bit longer than Tim. Is that what you're trying to say?
People will understand that I am very loquacious. I talk a lot, even when guests are on. But when I have certain guests on, and you've actually reached that pinnacle, I shut up.
You give a little air to my side of the room. That's fine. I appreciate that. And you got to remember now, I've got 30 years in the broadcast booth of learning how to abruptly break in and then turn it over back to your to the co-host there, the play-by-play specialist.
I was going to say now I'm the co-host of my own show.
There you go.
That's okay. Look, I even did notes for you. I don't do notes for anybody. Everyone will tell you that my preparation is coming in 10 minutes late, turning on the mic and start talking. I did notes, but that's okay.
I appreciate the work, and that is what's called preparation. It makes you better.
I love this. $1.49. That's cheaper than the OBB membership. And you're going to get our online Big Blue membership OG club. You're going to get more for Gary Reasons for $1.49 because you're going to get a philosophy. Everyone knows that I love reading. I love motivational books and I love documentaries. And I always have a copy of A Winner Within. I have like 4 or 5 of those copies laying around my entire house. And I got to admit, I'm ecstatic that I can finally have something else to read that is giant centric, but in a philosophy that, to me, when I was kind of just reading your experts, can really help you engage in different portions of your life.
Always, that's all the give back and what it is. And it's been meaningful for me to be able to give back and share knowledge, transfer knowledge, and give that gift to people, to others. And for Giants fans, I will give this tease also. Inside of the book, there are personal pictures that are never been seen before of our behind the scenes top 100 New York Giants of all times. Couple of photos, 2 or 3 photos there that I think people will get a kick out of. They really mean a lot to me, and I think the Giants fans will really, really get a kick out of them.
I love it. Mike Lee says, still no Bob Papa. No, Bob. We're working on Bob. We got Carl a couple times. You
need his number. I've got it for you.
Me and Bob Papa aren't best friends. Not going to get into the Bob Papa story. We're not best friends, but because he thinks I'm someone I'm not. But we're not going to get in there because I'm such a nice.
What? I'll give you a Bob Papa story, and this Bob Papa story sits with me and resonates really well. So you mentioned that I'm a member of the top 100 New York Giants, and actually how that actually came to be. And when it was announced to me, I was at a T-Mobile store with my wife, and my phone rings, and it's the New York Giants, and it's Joanne, and Joanne. There's a lot of guys know that she works with the alumni and the NFL legends, the Giants legends. Anyway, she said, "Hey, Bob wants to call you. He's got something he wants to share." I said, "Sure, just have him call me." So a minute later, Bob calls me. He says, "Hey, Gary, want to share something with you?" And I said, "Yeah." So I walked away from my wife and the service guy I was walking with. And he goes into, he says, "I wanted to call you personally," because Bob and I've done some broadcast work with Bob, and we're friends. And so he says, we commissioned this team and the Giants, their 100 year of celebration. And when he broke the news to me that I had been selected, it was, somewhat emotional because, oh my God, when you get that news. And Bob was obviously a longtime part of the Giants, and his history with me. It really felt it was a heartfelt moment to be able to have that. And when I closed the call and I walked back to my wife and told her, it was tough. It was one of those moments. But Bob was the one that delivered the good news to Gary Reasons on that wonderful day.
Well, when you're done here, you can call Bob. And
Okay,
I'll
remind you of that.
You could tell, and it's, and I'm not going to get into the Bob Papa story, but I always get into everyone that comes on the show. He thinks I'm somebody else, and that's the issue. And it was someone he had an issue with on Twitter, but it's not me, because I'm on Twitter, but I just repost stuff. I don't talk to people because I'm not very computer literate at times. So, but I would be remiss. I have to talk about it, and I have to talk about it. And there's giant things I have to talk about. But of course, we also need to talk about going to Reasons to Believe, the launch team. The page is there. It's in the link. It's in the chat. It's in the description. Go there right now. But there's certain things I have to talk Giant centric here. And one of the plays is, and I mentioned to you on the phone, that kind of defined the end of my childhood was the play in Denver. Was the hit, was that it was that impact. And I laugh because there was a picture of it in the New York Post, and I took that picture and I went to school and I blew it up on one of the copiers, and I kept trying to increase it, and I literally, what I did is I made it into,
want to make a poster, huh?
I made a poster, and honestly, and people will know I don't throw out anything. I still have the poster.
Oh wow!
And I kept it there, and it was just a play that, I mean, I still think that it's resonating in Mile High Stadium. Can you just, for the people here and the people on Believe, and I keep forgetting, don't forget Believe, also brought to you by the mighty FanDuel, FanDuel.com, the number one sportsbook in America. Can you just kind of go through that play a little bit? I'm geeking out because it's a kid moment for me.
Well, let's first put the perspective of what the game meant. The game was in 1989 in Denver. It was a little snowy that day, which was pretty cool to be on that field and with that environment. And back in the Northeast, we were on the road. It was in Denver, as I said, but in the Northeast, it was also basically a snow in. Everybody was home. Sunday afternoon game. John Madden, Pat Summerall on the call, and it was just one of those games where people are watching New York Giants football at that time. And so millions and millions of people watching the game, obviously back home in the Northeast. And all of a sudden, you look at the magnitude of this game, and we needed to win this game to get a seat in the, opportunity to get in the playoffs. So that was the first and foremost thing that we needed to do to get there. So, I really played in this game, probably one of the strongest games I feel like I had in my career with the Giants. Preparation was great. The timing was good. Everything worked out. There were some plays earlier in the game that I had that were very positive for us. But this goal line stop opportunity on 4th and goal to stop is really, it's all resonating from the word that I used earlier, and it's called preparation. My game study and my preparation of watching tape and learning tendencies and traits of these teams, of what they would do in those situations, when you understand what they normally will do and what they can't do, you weed out all of the noise. And so then you can laser in and focus on what you expect them to have. And so when John Elway turns out a certain way and Bobby Humphrey in the backfield steps to his right, I knew exactly what the play was going to be. And so I was able to put myself into motion a lot quicker than possibly normally, when you'd have to account for a lot of other things in a different part of the field. But in this situation, I knew what they were going to do. And so everything just came together. And with that preparation in mind, I took off and I made the play. And it's been resonating for Giants fans, from now for over the past 40 plus years here, just a little bit over 40 years, to really been pretty cool to every time that I go to the Northeast or talk to Giants fans, there's a couple of plays they bring up about me. It's this play and also the fake punt in the NFC Championship game. But making this play and having it be on the next season's football cover, the New York Giants, Jerry Pincus is the photographer, the Giants photographer, a longtime photographer, who took that shot. And congratulations to Jerry. And he was an award winner for that photograph, because it really just resonated with people. It resonated with fans, and it resonated with a lot of the Giants Big Blue community. Really what it was kind of about, just tough, physical, dealing with the elements, and ultimately winning. And so there's a shot of me just after that play, where on national television, to where I raise up my two arms like this over my head. And I was never one of those celebratory guys that was I ever showed out or anything like that. But that was genuine enthusiasm because of what we had done. And all of my teammates, as I coming off the field, they're all jacked up. I mean, you could feel our aura, our team chemistry above the fans because it's a Denver house now. But that was so cool. And just getting back to the sideline, I really couldn't get there because all these guys were coming at me, and I'm like, wow, this is it's cool. But making that play was fun for me, and I'm glad it's been a part of Giants history, and it worked out the best way because we did win the game. We did get a chance to play in the playoffs. 89 wasn't our season though, but the next year certainly was.
Mike Lee, I knew someone was going to bring it up. There's a bunch of other questions, but the fake punt. And I want to get to the fake punt in a minute, but those are the two plays I think that most Giant fans will define you as a Giant, and rightfully so because they were two incredible dramatic plays. Is there another play, or is there another game or another series that you kind of sit there and think to yourself, that is my game. That is the game that I have stamped. And it doesn't have to be a play, it can be the entire game that I put my stamp on as a New York Football Giant.
No, not really. I actually think that the Denver game was really more one of my most complete ball games. And it was really a fun aspect. I played well in the Super Bowls, and I played well in the championship games. I played well at times, special teams, with block punts and different things like that. Interceptions and a lot of turnovers, opportunities that I capitalized on. There's a lot of plays that I made very positively. I was very opportunistic when I had the chance to make a play, and I did so. So I think I had a very solid career. And there's a lot of talk out there that I didn't get all the accolades that probably should have, and because I'm sitting there with two NFL Hall of Famers and a guy who's in the Ring of Honor with the Giants already with Carl. And so those guys, pretty, those are all special players. But I just did my job. And to me, that was good enough because collectively, I'm a team guy. I've never been one of those guys that have tried to set myself apart and be somebody outside of the team aspect and, put myself out there like that. Try to be team focused, and because that's what we wanted to be, and we won a couple of championships, and that was the fruits of our labor. And having whichever this shoulder, that thing sitting back there, that's what you strive for.
Well, you should write a book.
Yeah, I could write a book. I actually have a second book in mind coming out that I want to have come out and follow this, but I've got a lot of ammunition that I can throw out there.
And that book, of course, that is coming out on Amazon March 24th. Reasons to Believe. Come on. Let's not forget why we're here, guys. We're here definitely. I got a lot of questions for Gary, but we are here for this book because I'm actually excited about the book. I get, I love my Kindle and I love it. And when I find something that's going to be interesting to read, and it's like I said, it's a philosophy, it's a leadership platform. And, mixed in with a little sprinkles. You had mentioned that Bill Parcells did something for the book. Do you want to bring that up again for the people that are just joining us?
Yeah, Bill's kind enough to write a foreword for the book. He's very congratulatory about me. I sent him some material to read and get his perspective on it. And he called me and was very gracious enough to give me some kind words about that. And he in turn was very favorable and wrote a foreword for me here. So I appreciate Bill and that. And, when you look at the things that I took away from Bill Parcells, first of all, I understood what he was about as a coach. He wasn't going to be our best friend as teammate, as our team. A head coach, his job is not to be friends with his teammates. His job is to get the most out of his players. And what is that? That's a leadership lesson. That is a lesson that I've learned that is you have to understand how to deal with people and work with people. If you're going to be a leader and you're expecting people and you're going to lead them to get an objective accomplished, you have to be able to do so. And so Bill's mentality and methodology of how he would do that, and I go into this a little bit into the book, is every day when we come into the stadium, he'd be in our locker room, sitting on the little stools in front of our lockers and talking to different guys every single day. And I love that about Bill because he was basically a part of the team. He wasn't separate and apart and up in the coach's offices at the time. He took the time to come down to be a part of the team and talk to us. And he knew how to push our buttons. That's what I tell people all the time. He knew how to get the most out of his players. And that's the mark of a good leader. And that's something that I certainly took away from him as being able to be communicative with people, understanding who they are and what make them tick, and then ultimately getting what you would like to have performance out of them. And the way he talked with me is not the way he talked to LT or how he talked to William Roberts or the way he talked to Carl Banks. He talked to everybody differently because everybody is unique. And so a good leader understands what they need to do in those moments when they're communicating with others. And Bill Parcells mastered that.
I always tell a Bill Parcells story because back in '86, my father used to do business with Wellington Maris. So every once in a while we came out to the stadium and we were watching you guys run through a practice. And I was told to stand in the tunnel. I was told, stand here, don't move. And Robbie Johnson, linebacker, comes by and was like, no, come here. And I'm coming towards the field a little bit. And Bill all of a sudden is standing behind me. And he's like, he goes, what are you doing on the field? Didn't say it that nicely. He goes, what are you doing on the field, son? And I'm a kid. So I'm like, were you told you could stand here? I'm like, no. And he goes, okay. And then he puts his arm around me, he laughs and says, I'm just kidding. And then he turns around and goes, now get the fuck off the field. And I was like, and I tell people, I said, that was the moment I didn't know whether to laugh or cry at that point in time. Because
you're walking into Bill Parcells' turf, his territory, his deal. And it was Robbie Jones, not Johnson. So hi, Robbie. I'm sorry about that. And good job there, man. Because there's a lot of people that came to practice, and they all went. There's a lot of people that he did the same thing that he did to you to them, and that is he would make you feel guilty, then he would embrace you, and then he would do his New Jersey best, whatever he needed to give it, and toss you out. So that's classic Bill Parcells, up and down.
Mike Liardi, I knew it was coming right now. The punt, the palpitation of the punt, the fake punt. I mean, you sit there and you think about it. You sit there and you see it. You sit there, and we have the picture on the thumb. You're watching you running with that ball, and I remember my father on that play just going insane, and it was one of those plays against the 49ers. It was in a big spot. It was in the spotlight. You needed that. You needed that play. It was so unexpected. I'm just curious because in Giant fandom, people are like, well, that play was called by Gary, no, or that play was called by Parcells. Can you kind of just put? I've heard so many different rumors from people and so many different stories of what exactly happened on that play and how that play came to fruition.
Well, I'll tell you what. We talk back to the hit in that game. I actually ran a fake punt in that game. It was the same fake punt in that game, and got a first down for the Giants, and helped us on to win that ball game too. So that was the first time we ran that particular fake punt in a ball game. And we always had a fake punt in our arsenal. And depending upon what the punt return team, how they aligned and everything, I would then assess that as the fullback on the punt team, or call it the quarterback of the punt team, whatever you want to call it. But I would assess that every time I would go out there, and I would return that to the coaching staff and let them know if it's there. So the first punt that we had in the NFC Championship game, they were doing exactly what we had expected. And so as I came off the field, I said, Bill, it's there if we need it. And I just walked right by him, and he just nodded at me. And so that was understood. And then in that situation, I'm running on the field by Bill, and he says, run it if it's there. And so that green light gave me the ability to make the audible to call the play, because I'm not going to go out there and audible to it without him setting it up. That's the head coach's responsibility. But he put it in my hands to be able to, one, assess the situation and then execute. And really, when it came down to it, having the opportunity to run that play at that time, it was cool for me to be able to be a part of that. But really, it worked out better than we could ever expect. The reason being is that there were only 10 players that showed up for the return team for the 49ers. And the 11th person who was supposed to be out there was supposed to be right in front of the hole, right in front of the right guard that I ran through, which was where I was supposed to run through anyway. But we had a way to block them. And so we actually had 2 blockers in that hole. And nonetheless, it opened up very well for me. And took off like a gazelle, and the rest is history. I've got the NFC rushing record for the all-time highest yards per carry average in the NFL in the NFC Championship game. So that's my story to my grave, and that's what I'm going to take out of
it. I love that story because we always quote the movie. There's much movies here that we quote, and there's the Tom Selleck baseball movie, Mr. Baseball, where he talks about how he led the team in 9th inning doubles in the month of October on Thursdays. We always love the stats here. Greg from Sweden, of course, says Gary Reason's such an underrated linebacker for the Giants. His instincts, football IQ were elite. Also, we want everyone to give a little shout out to Greg. His mom is having some health issues. So make sure we give our prayers up to his loving mom. So we make sure we do that. Joe Ferry says, "Whoa! I remember the ESPN cut up the reasons for the Giants' success." I was going to say he is another old timer. Joe Ferry's also says, "Let's go Giant fans." Big Chris says, "Smash the like button, everyone." I had to open and close the shop display just to watch the show. What was the book about again? Joe's always on the show, we always pitch the books. We always do everything because that's what we're here for. And again, Gary's here for March 24th, Reasons to Believe on Amazon. You can go right now to the launch team site, fill it out. As soon as you fill that out, when the book is launched, you will get the link. And how much is the book again, Gary, in the first iteration here?
Yeah, the digital version, the Kindle version is on Amazon. It's $1.49 for 48 hours. And then it kicks up a little bit, but we're going to run that promo for the first 48 hours. And all of those proceeds go to the charity foundation that we establish a relationship with. And we also have some giveaways for everybody who joins the launch tees, from jerseys to signed books and signed pictures, cover pictures that I'm giving away. So have a lot of engagement there, a lot of fun to distribute a lot of that. Really, the goal, Tim, is really about making this book, RTV, Reasons to Believe, take it to #1 on Amazon bestseller status. And that's kind of the goal. That's kind of what I'm trying to achieve here.
I love this one. Tim is on his best behavior today. I am on my best behavior. I'm not going to lie. And I've told this people before. I don't get nervous. I don't. I've met many professional athletes. I worked in the NFL. I worked in the Arena Football League, so I'm used to that. But there is, like I said, and I got Robbie Jones wrong, which is amazing to me because I've told that story a million times. I've never called him Robbie Johnson. I get a little nervous around Gary Reason. I'm not gonna lie, because like I said, that was a moment towards the end of my childhood. That it was just kind of like, yeah, I mean that play in Denver, it's just one of those things. Like I said, I still have the poster that I made in school.
Tim, I'll tell you this: there's been so many people that have talked to me about their childhoods and what they took away from that play and my career. And when you hear young men who were back then young men who are now 40 plus and in business careers and senior executives tell me stories like, Gary, we used to fight over who would be you when we played touch football. And that statement there really kind of floors you. That was kind of what I was a kind of a fan favorite back then. And that's great. I love that. And but being able to be, part of a team that had some long-term great success, of being able to be remembered by millions of people for doing something very unique and leading to a victory. That's something special.
Well, I always tell people, and I've done the imitation millions of times of Pat Summerall with Banks, Carl, Banks, Taylor, Carson, and Reasons, because I heard that on CBS. I don't know, throughout parts of my end of my childhood. That it was just something that you never forget. You played in an era, like you've mentioned before, where you had 2 Hall of Famers, on your linebacking core, and Carl Banks. And we've talked about it before, that Carl's very underrated and potentially should be in the Hall of Fame as well. But you never seem to be, in my perspective, even with those guys, you always held your own. You were part of something. You were part of a group that was something special. You were part of a team. You were part of a cohesive unit. But when you played with those guys, those three other guys, did you ever sit there and think to yourself, well, there's three Hall of Famers right here?
I certainly could see, LT, no doubt about that. Harry, with his tenure of what he had done before I'd even come to the Giants, and all his all pro accolades. So, Lawrence and Harry specifically, there's no doubt in my mind that they would be first ballot Hall of Famers of what they did. And Carl had such a great career. He and I came in '84 together, and so we grew up together with the Giants. And Carl was one of the most tenacious guys. And I tell you, I have a story about Carl in my book that never been told story before that really will be fun for people. And I'll give you a tease. It's about grit. If you understand what grit is, it's toughness. And Carl is one of the toughest players that I could ever imagine being a teammate with. I'm glad he's on our side because he had that grit. I'll leave the story in the book for people to check out. It'll be fun to read. But yes, I have no qualms or no ill feelings or anything bad about my era and time with the Giants. It all worked out great for me. And I'm just going to leave it at that. And now I have a chance to tell stories and give these gifts back to fans. And there's a lot more to come. But this is the first iteration. And this is a book that I've been really been wanting to get out, and it's gonna happen.
We have a question from Slider. Mr. Reasons, was there ever a time where Bill Parcells ever got you upset?
Ever upset me? He told me one time, and this is classic Bill Parcells. He goes, "Reasons, you better get your ass back in this game, or we're going to send you back to the swamp." Okay, so you have to put that statement in perspective. Okay, first of all, he's just trying to motivate me, trying to make me play better, and trying to get under my skin a little bit. But for him to take where I played college football in Louisiana, and there's swamps and everything else there, and have him make that analogy was A+ Bill Parcells etiquette of what he would do with guys all the time. And sure, we always had, and this is healthy communication back and forth, good, bad, positive, negative. But at the end of the day, it's all for one thing: take the team forward. Take the team forward. Our personal relationship never was ever in question. It was all solid, very much so. I appreciate Bill drafting me and bringing me on the team and giving me a chance to play. And when you think about what had to happen with Carl and myself, just think of turning the page on Brian Kelly and Brad Van Pelt. Those two had to leave the team so that we had a clean entry to it. But guess what? Bill didn't start us. He wouldn't allow us to start in '84, not week 1, not week 2, not week 3, not week 4, not week 5. Took 6 weeks before we started. We played in games really in the first quarter all the way through, but he started other veterans because Bill was very loyal to his veteran players. And so that was kind of how things turned out for Carl and I. We grew into the lineup and starting in '84 and '85, '86, and just all took off well from there. But that's a little background there. That's a lot of how Parcells built his team. You had to put the work in. You had to understand what mechanics were, and you had to fit in, and you had to be a part of the team unit and the culture of what Bill was doing in New York.
You came in '84, '83, 3-12-1, one of the worst Giants seasons. You had '81 with Ray Perkins taking the Giants to the playoffs for the first time in years. When you came in, you were, like I said, you were drafted by the Giants. Of course, when you came in '84, did you kind of look at the '83 season and say, okay, that was just an aberration? There so many things went wrong in '83. Bill Parcells talks about how he probably listened to too many people, and if he was going to come back in '84, he was going to do it his way. And if he was going to get fired, he was going to get fired on his own terms. Did you ever look at that 83 team and, you get drafted and you got the euphoria of that and kind of look at it and say, okay, there's something special, because there was a lot of talent on the 83 team. People don't realize that kind of moved over into 84, the 9-7 season, Phil Simms' first 4,000 yard season, making the playoffs, like I said, since the 81 time. But did you ever kind of just sit there when you first got drafted and say, I'm from Texas. I'm going to New York. This was a team that was 3-12-1. This is a guy that's going to be a second-year head coach, and I don't even know if potentially he's going to be here. Did you kind of think, Mike Ryan? Well, this is. I'm not sure this is going to be the best fit, but of course I got to go where I got to go. What were your feelings going into that after the draft in 84?
Yeah, you basically said it there. You don't really have any control of your situation. You're drafted. You have to go there. You have to show up. You have to produce. And that was really my mindset. I really didn't look back at the 3-12-1 season of the Giants and anything about that. I do understand, and I did look at, hey, the Giants have a long history of a very, very talented linebacker group. And when you had Brian Kelly and you had Harry Carson playing together for a long time together in New York together as inside linebackers and Brad Van Pelt on the outside, and you got that oddball out there, that number 56, there was something special there. Now that Bill makes the changes with Brad Van Pelt and Brian Kelly, it opens the door for me. So I wasn't worried about what was happening in the past. I was locked in, zero, and preparing for myself and getting myself. There was no guarantees that Gary Reasons was going to A, make the team, B, be a year one starter with the Giants, or C, having a long tenured career as I did there with a couple of championships. None of that was given up, or really, you had to earn that every way. And I think we built things together. It was a little different every season, but we built consistently. So at the end in 1990, we really had one of the best seasons in NFL history, 14-2 in that regular season. Probably should have won all the games, to be honest with you. But it was one of those things to where we felt as a team, the nucleus of the team. Just think of it: 22 to 23 players, 24 players of that era were together with me, and I think 25 of us are in the top 100. So that told you that we had a lot of quality players in that era. And so I didn't really let the past reflect on what I was looking to do or think of, but I just wanted to always use my knowledge and preparation to get to the next step and be a part of a winning team.
You mentioned Brian Kelly, and Brian Kelly is another one of those players that I watched growing up. We have been season ticket holders in our family since '76. We were there when they lost that opening game to Dallas. You wore 55.
Yeah.
You that's in my mind, when you came in, I'm not going to say I was upset with you, but I was upset with you because 55 was my other guy. And I kind of thought in my mind, well, he's going to take, taking Brian Kelly's spot. What's going on? He's taking his number. Was there any back in the day? And I know numbers are very important now because we've seen what goes on with some of the current Giants wanting to take back or bring numbers out of retirement or bringing numbers out of retirement. Was there any apprehension for wearing that number 55 because of how great of a player that Brian Kelly was? And it was just recently?
Yeah. First of all, I had no input. I had no ask. I had nothing about a question. I'm one of those guys, just give me a number. And whatever it was, I wore number 34 in college. They didn't know whether they were going to use me as a tight end or a linebacker. So 34 is now in the rafters at Northwestern State, which is a great thing. But that's something that I had no input for with the Giants. And, when you put it into context, that 55 legacy between what Brian did and what I did, and that's 20 plus years of pretty good stuff for that number. And I'm proud of what I did. I'm sure Brian is. And, he had a great legacy with the Giants. And so, no, I had no qualms about being 55 at the time. And just, I just did my job. It's what Parcells want us to do. Do your job.
Eric says, great show. Tim, great interviewer. I'm just going to leave it at that because I'm trying to impress Gary Reasons here. So I'm just going to leave that comment up for a little bit. But Gary's here for a reason. Gary is here to promote his book, which comes out March 24th on Amazon. The Reasons to Believe. I mean, it's Reasons to Believe. It's not just a sports book. Like I said, it's in some ways you can consider it a life lesson. It's a leadership forum, leadership platform. It goes through different things through Gary's life and Gary's experiences, not only on the football field, but in the business world itself. If you go right now and join the Reasons to Believe launch team, which is the comment section right here, you can go there. It takes you 15 seconds. We're trying to push the book to #1 on Amazon. So let's do that now, because guys, I'm going to talk about this ad nauseum to the 24th. So you might as well just go freaking do it.
There you go. Thank you. Thank you. That's what you do.
So that's what I do here. Anyone asks, this is what we do for the 163 people that are still watching. Make sure you're hitting the like button. Make sure we talk about the mighty FanDuel, FanDuel.com, the #1 sports book in America. If there was something, you gave us a little. You gave us some tidbits from the book. You gave us some excerpts a little bit in the book. Is there anything, and I don't want to give everything away because I want people to go and read it. We want people to go out and download it and buy the hard copy. But is there anything else in the book that you can give us a little insight to? Something you talked about, certain stories you have in there about the Giants. You talk about some business stories, some everything you've done. But is there anything else you could give us? This maybe something to whet our appetites. So on March 24th, when the book comes out on Amazon, we're even more excited.
It's written in my voice. It's really something that you're hearing me talk and me speak about these things that I've experienced and how I put them in perspective. And when I talk about any different topic, I use analogies. The analogies from football, from broadcasting, from business. And all of them are cemented in basic knowledge, basic understanding of what it takes to be, being able to write about something like this. So, in the author space, there's the thing called credibility. Okay, why is a guy writing about this, or what should he be? I think I have a very unique, qualified perspective on how to present some of these topics. And I think that this book really can be very well accepted in the business community. It can be very well accepted in the education space. It can be very well accepted in the teams and athlete space. Anybody who is looking to achieve or looking to understand, there's a subtitle, Tim, of it's called An Inspirational Path to Winning. Now that subtitle for Reasons to Believe is somewhat what I'm talking about here, is that it gives a little bit of flair of some of the things that I've experienced and that were achieved, to be able to let others know that this is the path that I've used to be able to take those things to successful completion and ultimately use those. And again, my goal in writing this book is to transfer knowledge, give you, the reader, the opportunity to take it and use it in your world as you see fit, to hopefully allow you to achieve and succeed the things that you're looking to move forward with.
And what we're going to do here on the show, and we do this a lot of times for people, we are going to be giving away some copies on the launch date as well. We'll give out some codes because we want to make sure that there as many people as possible. And to Gary's point, don't just fill out and become a part of the RBT launch team by yourself. You got friends, you got families. This isn't a book that's just football centric. This is a book that teaches you. This is a book that gives you lessons. This is it's the yes framework. And I'm not going to get into the yes framework right now for the people that are just tuning in, because I want you to go read this book. I want you to join the launch team. It takes you 15 seconds. If you join the launch team, you're going to get a link on launch day, and the digital copy is going to cost you $1.49. That's not even a cup, Gary. That's not even a cup of coffee.
No, it's not. It's not. And Tim, just like you talked about there, I'm going to challenge, and this is coming up here to our launch team. They're going to get several emails from me specifically over the course of this week. And launch day is a week from this coming Tuesday, so the 24th. So you're going to get some tidbits here from me early on. But for someone like yourself who grew up watching us as Giants and succeed and do these things, and you remember your team, your friends who you were with through those times. It's as simple as this for me in this ask. Hey, reach out to your friends and teammates that watch this era of Giants football be successful. Reach out to 2, 3, 4, 5 of those guys and put them on this. And we're going to take a team that is this size, and we want to make it this size, and maybe even make it explode. And it'll be fun to be able to do this. Have you guys ever been a part of someone who has created a launch team to launch a book? Probably not. This is my idea to create this thing, and I'm like, this is fun. I want to share this with Giants fans and with people that I've known. My high school community here in Texas. Crowley, Texas, where I'm from. I'm hearing from people that I haven't heard from for a very, very long time. They're seeing this because I've positioned this on all the my social media channels, on Facebook, on X, and on LinkedIn. All that's out there prominently. You can see it, and but it's something that I've had a lot of fun doing, and I see this is happening more. Creating a launch team, for what we're trying to achieve here, which is mission number one, is get Reasons to Believe to #1 status on Amazon as a best-selling author for Mr. Gary Reasons. How's that?
I love it. I'm down for it. We are going to, people, just get ready, because my blitz. You know what I do, because I will push it on Believe. I will bring it up every 15 seconds if I have to, because there's a goal, and there is a goal to make Gary's book, Reasons to Believe, #1 launch day, March 24th on Amazon. Yeah, I have 2 questions that I've seen in the chat. One question was, what would you say if Abdul Carter came and asked you to wear 55?
Well, there's been a few players post my day wear number 55, but never in a really, really prominent role yet. I've kept an eye on that number over the years, so it hasn't happened yet. But for someone like that, who's as drafted as high as he was for the Giants, it wouldn't matter to me. I don't have any illusion that my jersey is going to be hanging in the rafters of Giant Stadium. That's not going to happen. So I say, hey, go for it. And bring prominence back to the number. That's okay. Let's have another one join the club if you can make it successful.
Well, listen, I wouldn't mind, Kelly, Reasons, Carter. I think that's a good lineage. Tim, I am going to read this. I try to read all the chats. If he reads this, I was telling my son after watching you growing up, I showed him the hit up the middle on 4th and 1 against the Denver Broncos. Well, Tim, like I said, Timothy, I read all chats, so we always make sure that we have that. We already got that. Me being a great interviewer about Brian. There was another great question that I had here. 86 top all-time team. I did want to bring up a painful memory, and that's the 85 season. That is the playoff game in Chicago. For being I was a Giant fan since 76, so I never really saw success outside of the 81 season, then in 84, then 85, when you were building something.
Sure.
And you had, of course, the Sean Lendetta play in the end zone. You had, I don't blame Sean. I still think, you're playing off the wind. But it was just one of those games that you had built something in 84, you had moved forward in 85. And I know a lot of Giant fans, especially my age, kind of really thought that, the Bears were good, but we thought you guys were just on the same level. And it's not that it was a blowout or anything, but when you guys when the Giants went into that game, when your defense went into that game, and there was an aura about the 85 Bear team, that they were unstoppable, that they were just, they were the team. But when you went in there, did you have any, I already know the answer, but I'm going to ask it anyways. Did you have any inclination when you went to Chicago that day, like, this is the Bears, this is the team of destiny? Or did you just go in there like, what, it's another game, it's another team, we're just as good as they are, it's our turn, it's our time after such a long period of time?
I think that we had already grown from 84 into 85, that we were a team that deserved to be here because of our performance, in the regular season and so forth. And in Chicago, I'm not giving any excuses. The Bears, they came out on top. They made the plays when they needed to. Sure, Sean's, the punt opportunity. I was a fullback on the punt team. And so, I counted 1,000, 1,002, and I ran down the field because there was nobody rushing at me. But when I heard the crowd roar and I can't see the football, I turned around and they scoop it up and bring it into the end zone. I'm like, it's not a good thing. So that did happen. And, to Sean's defense in that situation, that win in that stadium that day was tremendously strong, and gusts of wind were all day long, and it happened. So I do see what happened with the football. Watching that play, drops the ball, and and it moves off his foot, and all of a sudden it's gone, and it's just a moment in time that of all the times that we had favorable wind conditions in Giant Stadium, benefiting us, we go into an environment to where Mother Nature really wasn't our friend that day. That was interesting, but I take nothing away from the Bears for their championship season, because they certainly had a great run there, and they were built a lot like we were back in that day. There was a style of play in the NFL that worked. In the NFC East, we were tough, physical, defense first. Offense doesn't make mistakes, and we win football games. That was pretty much it. You look at the Bears; they were built the same way. They were built first on defense first. Don't make mistakes. Mike Ditka had that team dialed in, much like Parcells had our team dialed in, to not make mistakes, execute. If you can't score against this team, you can't lose, right? So that's kind of the mentality of what we had to go through, and that's exactly what it is.
We got to get to Funky Town, because Funky Town with Super Chat and all Super Chats along with OG memberships go to the Philadelphia Children's Hospital. So again, thank you, Funky Town. Funky Town is in Texas. And Mr. Reasons, how do you feel about the landscape of DFW football now that your rival high school in North Crowley is now nationally ranked?
Well, I love it. I actually love it because Crowley, Texas is, obviously where I'm from, and Crowley High School is dear to my heart. So a lot of folks in the Northeast may not know this, but for the last decade, I've been the color analyst for the Texas High School State Championship games for at AT&T Stadium for Fox, developing those broadcasting those games. So I actually called North Crowley's state championship winning game, not this last season, but the season before last, where they did win the Texas state championship game. And the coaching staff there has done a great job of bringing that high school, which is North Crowley and Crowley High School, are part of the same school district, but it's just south of Fort Worth of where that is. And they built a brand new stadium for Crowley Independent School District on Interstate 35 on the south side of Fort Worth, which is one of the mega stadiums in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, which are somewhat kind of in vogue now in the state of Texas, because the elevation of Texas high school football is tremendous. And so these big stadiums are really multi-purpose stadiums, but more specifically for North Crowley, Ray Gates and that football team, the head coach there, he's done a great job with that program, and I was very glad to be able to be on the call for that game to bring that championship there. And when I think back fondly of Crowley, I see the resonance there. And there's another Super Bowl champion that came out of Crowley High School. He was with the Eagles last time they won the championship. His name is Milton Williams. Milton went on to the New England Patriots, and he played in this Super Bowl. Didn't get another victory. So I still got you. I've got 2 Super Bowl championships in Milton, and you have 1. So congratulations on your success. But I'm still the reigning Super Bowl champ of Crowley High School. You just got to remember that.
Where are the rings? Are they in
they're in the other room. I don't have them.
Were they in a safety deposit box? Do you break out the rings? I mean, because I know if I won a ring, I would literally probably be at the grocery store going, "Oh, hey, no, nothing going on here."
Well, I tell you what, I actually bring my rings to speaking engagements, people that I talk to as a group and what have you. And if the event is right, I don't have a problem passing the rings around the room. Listen to that. So handing these rings off and giving them the audience to be able to look at and take pictures of and experience is something that I do. I do it at risk, but I do have a little mechanism to keep up with those rings. it's called armed bodyguard personnel to be able to watch those rings as they move around the audience. But yeah, I bring them to those events and things that I think people would get a kick out of them to see that. I'll wear one on a broadcast, or I'll wear one at a speaking engagement, and and sometimes in football environments, that when I go to a football game as a fan, I may wear a ring just to kind of tease people a little bit. So those are different things that could be fun with Super Bowl championship rings. And when I go back and forth to the Northeast, I'm in and out of airports. I typically have one of my rings or both of them with me, and which is good. And one of the things that I love to do is, if I see a family in Giants gear, whether it be a husband and wife or kids, especially kids, I'll mosey over and I'll talk to these people and I'll say, "Hey, have you ever seen one of these?" And then you got to see the smiles and the brightness on the face of those parents, especially when you're talking about with these kids, and you take pictures and let these kids try on these rings and hold them on their fingers, and let that have that moment resonate with them. Those are things that I do that bring a lot of personal joy to me, but I know that it's going to be meaningful to these young people and those families forever. I grew up in being a Dallas Cowboy fan, here in Dallas Fort Worth, and I remember my mother getting an autograph from one of their players, and had gotten that to me, and I thought that I was over the moon with that. So I remember how impactful that can be to a young person, and I still remember that today. And it's one of those things that I do that, and when I'm able to put a smile on somebody's face, it's giving back, it's transferring knowledge, it's sharing what I'm doing, and that's what Reasons to Believe does. It shares that knowledge.
If you don't mind, I want to drop somebody in who just gave this question that you could put a smile on his face. This is Big Don from Texas, who just gave us that question. Huge Giant fan in the Lone Star State.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you want to talk about a big fan in Texas? This is the guy right here. Also knows everything about Texas football, as he just gave that question a moment ago. This is Gary Reasons, Don, Big Don.
Hey man,
Mr. Reasons, I got a question for you.
Hey, is the outside of your car blue? Because if it is, that red accent with that chair is perfect.
I got you.
I nailed it, didn't I?
My license plate holder is also New York Giants, and it's in the back, so people know when they're behind me who's the best.
Wow, awesome.
So here's the question, because I asked Carl Banks this question: how did you feel in practice going against Joe Morris in practice?
Well, first of all, we weren't allowed to hit Joe or touch Joe, but I would tell Joe all the time, "Stand up, come on, get on your toes or something." No.
Well, Big Don is also a huge Syracuse fan.
Oh, I get that. Okay.
So I was always with the debate with him that, in my mind, Jim Brown at Syracuse was a better lacrosse player than he was a football player.
He was a 4-sport athlete, so I mean, hey.
But Hey,
I tell you, Joe, he was a great player, great teammate. Love to have him on our team. He had a lot of juice. He could get in the hole pretty quick. Very, very smart, taking care of the football. He was a great player for us.
It's funny because I always tell Tim, I said, if we want another Super Bowl, we need a Syracuse player. And then I started naming one Syracuse player for every Super Bowl we won. And then he started thinking about it. He was like, wait a minute. Just need to bring them back, baby.
All the Syracuse players on the four championships for the Giants. Probably even going back to the 50s and the NFL championships. There was probably that. Big Don, I want to drop you up, but I do want to appreciate you coming on, my brother. And
I appreciate y'all.
Stay safe and drive safe. And I know you're probably doing your many jobs. Good question here, right from BP. Gary, advice for young men whose football dreams end in rookie camp, or for the pros who have a hard time with life after football.
I think I can take that a little bit, extend it for even the high school and collegiate player. Yeah. You could even think of that, because not everyone's going to make it to the National Football League. I mean, it is such a rare few that get to have the opportunity to play there. And when you look at the total perspective and the numbers I'll just give you a big number here. Over the course of time, in college football, there's been about 5.4 million players play the game of college football. And in the NFL, you can just do the math, for 100 seasons, just think about that, times 50 per team, times however many teams there are in each season. You can do the math on how many guys have been playing in the NFL. It's very, very small. But in college football, I'm fortunate to be a part of the College Football Hall of Fame. When you look at the inductees to the College Football Hall of Fame and how few there are as compared to the percentage of players playing, it's amazing. And so it's such a small percentage. You have a much better chance when you make it to the NFL to get in the NFL Hall of Fame than you do the College Football Hall of Fame because of the volume of players that play the game. So that's a little story, but back to the question about advice. Put your best effort forward on anything that you do. Always have an opportunity to pivot, and with your preparation and your skills and your training and the things that you do to make you a success in your sport and those are transferable skills to basically anything that you want to achieve. Those are things that you can use in your adult life, be it in family, be it in business, be it in whatever you choose to do. They are transferable. The tools and the tips that you use as an athlete, you can use those moving forward. And that can be for females or for girls in sport or people who are in band. If you're part of a group or a team or something that's achieving or trying to play together, take what you learn from those environments and then use those in your daily life and use those to your advantage, and you can move forward with those. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of a reckoning there for those who, when your football days end and you need to pivot to do something else, you have the things that you've leaned on early to move forward with.
Everyone knows that my college career ended with 2 consecutive ACLs. And I always tell people there's only 2 things that stopped me from going pros. That was injuries and lack of talent. But that's my story. Are those 2 Emmys in the background?
Yes.
Am I staring at my Danbury Mint statue with the 2 Emmys? Now people forget you were abroad are you still abroad? Are you still broadcasting regularly?
I still broadcast, yeah. Do a little ESPN work. So I've been over 30 years now for college football television broadcasting. So it's been a great run for me, and it's something that I love to do. And I prepare for football games in the broadcast booth, much like I did in the NFL. Practice, study, preparation. You watch game tape, you talk to coaches, you talk to people, you get a lot of information, and you bring that forward in the telecast. And you're always prepared for whatever happens and able to pivot. But you have a production team that we use on broadcasts. And they are much like any NFL or collegiate football team. It's all a cohesive action. And then what you do in the broadcast booth is really just a representation of what is being done by the production team in displaying that game. And I tell people stories this all the time, but the things we talk about in a broadcast in a college football game, and it's basic storytelling, but with the elements that we build in these telecasts, they don't just happen automatically. They have put time into these things, whether it's background images or there's stats or there's different types of elements that you want to bring into the story, that it's a communication of, I'll hit my talk back button. I'll say, hey, let's roll with 81 feature. And so we'll say something like that. And then it just starts. And these are produced elements that go into that game, but I'll bring it forward in that context. And fans are so used to seeing these things just roll out and just come to life in the game that they don't really understand how much preparation and work and execution that it has to take across a big team to really bring that to life. So that's something I wanted to move forward. I wanted to share with you guys.
Also, again, Gary's here because we all know why. Join the Reasons to Believe launch team. There's the link. The link has also been put in the chat about 100 freaking times. So make sure you go out right now. We are going to push this book to #1 bestseller on Amazon on March 24th. We are going to do what Gary did. He's got Emmys. He's got 2 Super. How many people have 2 Super Bowl rings and Emmys? I mean, I look at the Super Bowl trophy and I look at the Emmys and I get confused. But I had another question here. Gary, do you have a good Lawrence Taylor practice story, a morning meeting story, in-game LT dominant story?
Oh my goodness. There are many LT stories that I could share. Some of them I purposely keep private in respect for everyone. But I'll tell you this, Lawrence, in his own way, was one of the most prepared players on our team. He understood what it took to get to the excellence that he had. He really refined his game, I think, by a little bit of tutelage from Parcells and Belichick of understanding how to tackle a blocking scheme or a kind of a situation in a game or something that he would be asked to do. And he took that to heart and he crafted that. He was an effort guy. And there's a little story that I tell in my book that Bill Belichick was conveying to us in a way about Lawrence Taylor that he could only tell it one way, and he put it on a video clip and shared it with us. So I'm going to leave it at that. But that is about Lawrence Taylor, and I share about that in my book, and you'll get a kick out of it there. I can't really give you all the juice on it here, but it's pretty good there. But Lawrence was a tremendous teammate and a guy that we obviously respected, loved to have on our team, and just brought us forward. He brought us excellence every single day, and glad to have him there.
Don't forget also, guys, hit the like button. Let's drive. We have 178 people now watching. Make sure you drive that like button up so we get Gary not only on the #1 Amazon bestseller list, but also get him in the analytics of YouTube so more people can get the book. More people can go out and learn these life lessons. Prince has a great question. Gary, do you remember how you felt going into your first game against the Cowboys in the old Cowboys Stadium?
Yeah, Texas Stadium, the one that had the hole in the roof. They're talking about when God looked down on the American team, right? Yeah, that was the story. I do remember playing in that game. First of all, for me in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, I had family, friends come to the game, and I knew they were there. I met with them the evening before, some of them, and so that was pretty fun for me to go back to where my childhood dreams of playing for the Cowboys came to fruition in a little bit of a different way against the team that I watched growing up. And luckily for me, my time against the Cowboys really ended mostly in positivity with wins against the Cowboys. They weren't in a great period of time. It was post our run there in late 80s and early 90s that the Cowboys took off with the 3 Super Bowl wins that they had in the early 90s. So we had a lot of success there. But for me to go back and play in that stadium and have friends and family in the stands, and I know everybody that from Crowley, Texas, and other places at Northwestern State, where I went to college, they were watching that game, those games, and it got my juices going a little bit more to be able to play well there. And be honest with you, I played very well in just about every ball game against the Cowboys with some pretty good performances. So yeah, I enjoyed playing those games.
I don't know how much longer we have you for, but I have a couple more questions. If
I'm good, go ahead. Let's roll.
I just want to make sure when we've had Carl Banks on a couple times, and he told a story, and I don't know if your story, and I want to hear maybe you have a story, but we always asked him what was the I'm an old timer, so what happens in the locker room stays in the locker room. But he told us the Ray Handley story, where he kind of pinned Ray Handley up against the wall. He almost got himself. He thought he was going to get cut the next day. Not going to go through the whole story again because Carl tells the story much better than I do. But do you have a Giant story? And it doesn't have to be anything such as that, but just a fun Giant story that throughout your playing days. Maybe something that did happen in the locker room that you can share. Maybe something that happened on the sideline, because we all know anyone that's played or watched, there's a lot of stuff that goes on the sideline. Is there a Gary Reasons Giant story?
Nothing. I really was not in any altercation or any big scuffle or anything like that. I did have an FU conversation with Lawrence Taylor on the field after I told him I told him some choice words because we were in our defensive a huddle. We were mouthing at each other, and it was just, and I just had enough of it. And so I threw some choice words out there. And what it did was it calmed our defense down. And Lawrence, his eyes were so big, it took him by surprise. And all of a sudden, we tightened up and we found our footing after that. But he still tell you to today that he said, "Man, I never thought I would hear Gary say that." but it was one of those things where he was wanting to come at me, but no, he had to play defense first. So it was kind of one of those moments in time. But be honest with you, it worked out better for the team because it got us in the right frame of mind. There's nothing worse. There's nothing worse than being on a defensive team to where you have a team that is running the football on you, and you don't have a mindset to stop them. We're not making the plays to stop them, and that was completely against our makeup. And that was kind of the part of that story that needed to be told before kind of the explosion of attitudes, and which was what I just mentioned. And so with that in front of it, we just didn't have those things happen that often against us. So we were all locked in together. But when things are going bad, you can feel it, the team being pulled apart. And if you don't have a stabilizing force to pull it back together, that's what I sensed was needed, and it kind of did.
You had the pinnacle in '86, of course, and then the '87 season rolls around, and there are so many things that happened in that '87 season that Giant fans, you take a look at the turmoil, not even in the Giants, but in the league itself. Yeah. I mean, you were at the pinnacle, you were at the top, and then but even nowadays, it's difficult to repeat. It's difficult in any championship level unless you are this team beyond this, and everything has to go right again. How did that '87 season feel after you guys had you did what you did, and there was so much built around that team, and especially in the media back in New York and New Jersey. I remember in the Trentonian and Trenton Times reading about how we were going on this big run, and then everything that happened in '87. How did that season kind of turn about a little bit, and did it make '90 even more special, even though you kind of went through what you did in '87?
Well, let me set the framework here. So in 1986, we win the Super Bowl, obviously, for that season. January of 1987. So everybody's thinking that the Giants are going to do really, really well, moving forward. We've got a great team. We've got a great nucleus. We're still fairly young, at that time. So no problems. But in the league, in the National Football League at that time, was at the head of us a new collective bargaining agreement that needed to be in place and we needed to have that move forward. I was our player rep for the Giants. I took the torch from.
Come on, Gary.
They're ringing in here. I can hear the members joining the launch team.
Better be people joining the launch team because everyone tells me it's unprofessional when my phone goes off in the middle of the
street. So, but I took the torch from George Martin of being the NFL player rep for the Giants, and love to be able to do that, to be a asset for the team. And it was a difficult time. We were actually in strike mode, and so we went on strike. And so I still remember going to Giant Stadium, holding the "We're on strike" signs. There's actually a picture of me in the I think it's the New York Daily News or the Times, that had me and my son walking away from the stadium with my sign and a bag of stuff that I took out of the locker room. And it was a crazy time. But that all kind of bubbled into what was really bad for our team because, back then we had, people we had replacement players come in to play the first 3-4 games of the season. And if you remember, there was some splintering. There were some players who crossed the picket line, so to speak, on our team, and they went back to play.
You had a very big name, Cross.
Yeah, a couple of them, and you take that into context, and that is really what kind of wrecked kind of our momentum of what we built in '86. Obviously, we were still an elite team, knew how to play together, but we just didn't find our footing coming back and coming back together as a really cohesive unit. And when you talk about leadership, and you talk about team, and you talk about consistency, and culture, the culture was affected by our team, for our team, because of some of those things, and we just didn't find our footing. So that's why the '87 season was really just kind of one that needed to be swept under the table. And I try to blame it on the replacement team, because they went 0-4 then, and we said, hey, we were starting that season because of these guys. And I would kind of look back at it and say that was a bump in the road. But while I'm on the NFLPA stuff, let me take it forward here. When you start looking at where the NFL is today, I was on the NFLPA executive team for 6 years in the NFL, and so. One of the things that I really am appreciative of is my time spent there on the executive committee of the PA, simply because I was part of the PA executive committee team for we negotiated to get free agency for the players in '93. And guys, when you talk about the escalation of the NFL, it literally was going like this, but it started to go like this, literally on a rocket ship level in '93 and beyond. And it hasn't slowed down now. You see all the big dollars that are out there for players today, and free agency, and all the rules that are favored for the players. It all started with our collective bargaining in 1993 to get players free agency for the first time. So I look at that as a very proud moment, and one of the pieces of my football legacy that I brought, for not just for Gary reasons, but for the entire league and for the team, the players that came after us. I remember Gene Upshaw was our executive director of the NFLPA back then, and Gene was obviously a Hall of Fame player for the Los Angeles Raiders, or excuse me, the Los. Yeah, always. Where were the Raiders back then? They moved around.
They were in Oakland.
That was the Oakland Raiders. Yeah, Oakland
Raiders.
So Gene was a guy that I really respected, because he always told the NFL story in three pieces. It's the guys that came before you. He's the guys that are playing now that are after your career's over. So he tried to connect the historical aspects of it, of being able to play all together with the guys who came before you, the current guys, and the older guys, the retirees, and having that understood of what made up our NFL player brethren. It means something. It meant something to me, and I think that we carried that torch right at 1993 into that, and it brought better benefits for the current players, and obviously beyond with free agency, and better benefits for the former players in retirement and so forth. That's one of the things I am really proud of, that I was a part of in my NFL career.
James Williams, who was a big proponent of the show here, is there anything that's going on? He's got a good question. Tell us about one thing in the game that has changed since you have played that you don't like or approve of.
I'll tell you, the biggest change in the NFL since the days that I played are the rules. The rules are so much slanted towards the offensive side of the ball, and the defense. Really, you have to play with a skirt on out there, because they won't allow you to touch anybody. So it's tough for defensive players to have a chance without some kind of contact. And you look at defensive backs, and they're the ones that really have to deal with this more than anybody. But the contact, no contact, where you're at on the field, 5 yards or after 5 yards, all those different things mean something. And it's an awareness. There are some guys that have what you call a quick twitch, and whether they have the greatest hips or not, to be able to flip and go and turn and run and be able to keep up with wide receivers who are elite, quick starters, change of direction guys. It's really, really tough on the defensive backs. So what my whole thing is saying here is the rules have changed more than anything to encourage teams to have an offensive philosophy of throw it down the field and try to create big explosive plays. One, they're catching the ball, or two, possibly a longer play from a penalty perspective that puts more offense in a more favorable position than defense. Give me one instance where there's anything done via the league and officiating that has helped the defensive side of the ball. There isn't one. So I'll save you the headache. And because of that, the game has changed a little bit slightly towards a more explosive down the field passing game, and really more of a mindset of going for it in different situations. Now you think of teams that are going for it on fourth down and on their own 35 and 40-yard lines where they really wouldn't have done so in the past. They'd be punting those things away. But there's a lot of teams now with all of the analytics trying to explain the narrative. Hey, we know the analytics tell us this, and making those decisions. So those are a couple of the things that stick out to me. But in reality, the players aren't any bigger. The players aren't any faster. They're not any more explosive. They're not. All of those things are primarily the same. It's just the rules that have pushed the game to a different level of what it is. It is exciting for the fans to watch. It's exciting for the broadcasters to call those games. But trying to paint the right picture is a little bit difficult, from some of the color analysts, because they don't always see things there. That they may be seeing, like Chris Collinsworth sees from maybe a perspective of his lens, which was actually predating mine, but of in the NFL, of how he looks at things moving forward. Then you have more recent times guys. Like you take a Troy Aikman who played well beyond my days. So there's different guys who have different times in the NFL of how they are broadcasting games and how they see the games. But I think they would all agree that the rules have changed on the field to the betterment of the offense.
And this, of course, is Gary Reason's Giant Legend with the new book coming out March 24th, Reasons to Believe. Go join the launch team. It's right there. When you join the launch team, you will get a link on the 24th. You will be able to download the Kindle version of the book for $1.49. Come on, guys. I'm going to say it again. I'm going to pitch this till the 24th and beyond. I put the link in the chat. I put the link everywhere. You're going to see the link everywhere on the Believe Network. We got a question here. How did Bill Parcells treat an underachieving player? Now, you've seen the NFL films of Bill Parcells, and these weren't underachieving players, like with Jumbo Elliott and William Roberts, telling Jumbo Elliott at one point in time, that's not Michigan down there, so don't worry, But he always seemed to have this, and we talked about it earlier. I always had to see this little nudge he would give you. But how would he treat a guy that maybe a guy that's not an underachieving player, but maybe just someone that's not reaching their success or what they could do on the field, which he knew they were a good player, but maybe they just weren't reaching that expectation?
Well, he would give them opportunity. And the opportunity is for the player to take advantage of that. And if the player doesn't take advantage of it repeatedly in situations, he's going to ask you this question: do you want an aisle or a window? That means, on the bus ride or the plane ride home, do you want an aisle or a window? So that he's point blank telling you that you're going to be leaving this team if you don't get that going. Parcells treated everybody on our team fairly, but he didn't treat everybody as equally. I'll leave it as that. He gave guys a little bit more rope who needed it or deserved it, but he also he reeled everybody in. I told a story a little bit earlier about him, being in our locker room, communicating with guys repeatedly every single day. That's how he was a part of our team in our locker room every single day of the week. There was not one that went by in my career with him in there that he wasn't in the locker room in the mornings. That was just Bill Parcells being a part of the team, being a part of the culture, and it fostered a positivity because, and I talk about this a little bit in the book too, that he was very fatherly in his communication with the players, but it wasn't all that lovely. In other words, he would he have to tell you things that you don't want to hear. Because you as a player, you think you're indestructible, but really, he holds the keys to his team, and ultimately, you had to satisfy him and what he was expecting of you. I think Bill overall would probably resonate this way with the players that played for him, is that he treated everybody fairly, even guys that were he sent packing. That unfortunately that it just wasn't a fit for that player or that team at that time, and maybe the player had to do some owning up to what his abilities were.
Another great question. We talked about this on the show. Mr. Reasons, I truly believe tackling has been an issue. Too many shoulder tackles that lead to missed tackles. Is this due to not practicing?
Well, first of all, if you're able to hit with a shoulder, you should be at least able to get an arm out or two arms and maybe, make that contact as well. But if you're just trying to knock and hit somebody and do that, running backs are conditioned to pivot. And they're used to doing that just off contact, and just contact alone is not going to take down a running back. So you need to be forceful with your arms and striking so that you kind of wrap always as a defensive player, you're trying to make a tackle. I think that because of the rules changing and so forth, and some of the things talking about utilizing your head, and because of the brain trauma that we've experienced as players over the course of the history of the NFL, that what the biggest change to the positive for players is really, crown of the head and the tackling with the head. Because I think that at a young age, if coaches at a youth level, which they do today, they teach how to tackle properly instead of, I was taught from a very young age to square up a player, use my crown of my head and forceful tackle right there. And instead now youth are encouraged to use the V of their neck and use a wrapping tackle, keep your head out of it, which is a much safer position to be able to be in. I applaud that methodology because it's going to create healthier players ahead. I see that improving in players at the junior high school level, collegiate level, and then you see it hopefully take into the NFL, because it takes time to implement these things across the bulk of football. Of what are you trying to do there, and what the goal is. From my perspective and from being on the Player Association, is taking the danger and the risk out of it of brain trauma. Unfortunately, this is a very, very violent game that we do play. There will be some times where there's just no other opportunity, but you're going to make collisions and things happen. Those things are going to happen. There's going to be trauma. There's going to be injury, and really, nothing bad about that. One of the interesting stories that I tell people a lot about is, we feel like we're indestructible as players, but in 19 we played against the Redskins and Joe Theismann, and everybody remembers that game, a Monday Night Football, and Al Michaels, and we were playing, and when it was a situation that came down to it, that we put Joe Theismann on the sideline because of a traumatic injury. Lawrence comes around, and I'm on that tackle. Lawrence is on his leg, and I'm on top of Joe, and so we compressed him, and then the situation turned bad, and he had a traumatic compound fracture of his leg, and his basic career was terminated at that time. But when you hear that story, what Al Michaels and Frank Gifford were talking about in the booth, and talking about it, and all the time, it's kind of a hush moment, in the stadium. And when Joe was broken, there, in a time in America, it was a time of healing too, because we were broken. We needed reflection on that, and a lot of people in the workplace, at the around the coffee pot in the office, were having conversations about, did you see that game on Monday night? Oh, blah, blah, and all this breakage and stuff. It's a way to reflect of how to understand how to, put things in perspective that's happening in your world, in your community. But when millions of people remember that play, they remember that time in their lives, because the broadcast team was trying to do a decent job of sharing what was going on the field, but also, kind of reflecting in what's happening across the world. So one of the somber moments of football, but I use it to a positivity when I do some speaking with groups, that it makes for a quiet room. Sometimes there's some sobbing, and sometimes there's some great applause.
Well, people do forget, and especially in that day in Pasadena, the patriotism, everything else that was there on display that day because of everything that was going on in the world. Good question here, Mr. Reasons. What do you really think of the defensive line we have now, and why do the Giants struggle so much against the run? For the last 5 years, we have been giving up chunks of yards. I mean, we've talked about it on the show. We've been in the bottom of the league in reference to stopping the run. I think last year was 5.4 yards we were giving up. Great question. Why do you think the Giants are struggling with all the talent that we have on the defensive line? You have the most amount of cap space allocated in the league in the defensive line right now for the New York Football Giants, but we just seem to have issues stopping the run, even going back to when we made the playoffs a couple of years ago.
Yeah. So every defense has to be founded on principles. Okay. And whatever the system that you're playing in has to have a structured approach to what is expected of particular players and particular assignments. So with the Giants defense, they flip back and forth from a 3 down to a 4 down front. And I don't think that is really a great way to create consistency, first of all, because as a linebacker, you actually have, from an off the ball linebacker, you have fits that you have to make on the line of scrimmage to account for your role. And also you're going to be accountable with whether it's a defensive end or a defensive tackle or a nose tackle, where you fit there. So in the Giants defensive run defense over the last several years, I think that there has not been a consistent enough approach of saying, hey, this is who we are. If you want to run against us, but this is us, and we're going to beat you up in this sense. And if you want to take away the run game first, well, these teams today, because of the rules, remember I talked about that, they're going to throw the ball. So I think most teams now have more of a defensive defense approach because of the rules in the NFL. And it hurts against the run just from a rule perspective because you're aligning your defensive backs in your strategy to accommodate down the field passing and so forth. So you can't get as much of a box run. So a basic cover 2 front, which we played for years and years and years with the Giants, our cornerbacks are up there, and we've got a 3-4 defense. And basically, we got a lot of horsepower up there, close enough to the line of scrimmage that you're not going to have explosive runs because we were a force there. But there's some physicality and there's some fits. These linebacker fits are inconsistent, highly inconsistent of how they approach the game. And I think that the defensive linemen in that regard are asked to do a little bit too much also, because it's very difficult for a defensive lineman to be able to handle 2 or 3 gaps. It's just and you can't do that. But you have to be able to be a cohesive enough defensive front to be able to take care of those gaps by assignment and assignment only. And when you have the trust, and I talk about this in my book a little bit, you have to have the trust of the player next to you that they're going to be doing their role or their job. Otherwise, you're not going to be a cohesive defense. So you have to build the trust that you're going to be there together, and you have to build the physicality of being a defense that's going to stop the run, and you have to do it consistently and persistently because that is what it takes to be able to be a great defensive front.
You talked about the Giants in 86 playing the 3-4. You had, of course, George Martin. You had, of course, Leonard Marshall, but you had a guy number 64, the guy they had to sew the jersey on to. They always hear the stories, Mr. Jim Burt. And I've tried to explain to some of the younger fans, especially in that 3-4 scheme, the importance of the nose tackle. And 2 of the players that I've always felt, there's a couple players I felt on the 86 Giant teams that were a little bit, may as history have gone away a little bit. There are players that just don't get the credit for being as good as they were with the newer generation. I always bring up you, and I always bring up Jim Burt. Could you just talk a little bit about Mr. Burt and his style of play in that what then was referred to as the nose tackle position, and his importance to that 3-4 defense? Because there's potential that Denard Wilson will run again, like you spoke, a hybrid 3-4. But that anchor in the center, that middle of the line, just there. And after watching as much football, there is a importance to that position that sometimes I can't convey properly, I think, to the next generation of Giant fans.
Jim was actually an undersized, undersized defensive nose tackle. 265, 270 was what his maximum weight was really to play there. But because of his size, he was a little undersized in the height category too. He had great leverage, and he had a great lower body strength and core strength that he used to his advantage. And plus, Jim was a very, very, very stout upper body strength as well. So proportionally for him to be able to play, he used everything that he had, and he was excellent at it, of getting leverage. And when you have somebody who can, one, control the center, and basically one gap to the right, one gap to the left, it's basically that. But in reality, it's not his job to do all three of those, just the middle and both gaps. He only was responsible for one gap. You understand that on the backside of a play, there's that backside gap, we call it the A gap, that's the inside linebacker's role to handle that gap instead of Jim. So that wasn't his gap. So I would fill that, or Harry would fill that, or Pepper in his time would fill those gaps, behind, or on a forward play, but it's right at you. Jim's in the A gap, I'm in the B gap, or vice versa on the other side. We were gap control defense then, and that's exactly how you have to play that. And having somebody who was very astute and could use leverage, and Jim was very, very, he took care of most centers. The thing that he wasn't good at, Jim was not a plow horse to where he was pushing offensive centers back into the quarterback. That's what today's NFL nose tackles are asked to do, is to have a push back in the pocket so that you have that constant push going in front of the quarterback to make him increase his speed of execution. That wasn't our goal right then. Our goal was to stop the run, and Jim did that very efficiently. And we used pass rushers outside, obviously with Lawrence and company to get accomplished rushes. So, but Jim was a workhorse inside and had great leverage.
We got a big thanks to Deb for the kids, because every super chat and every dollar we make off the OG membership club is donated every month to the Philadelphia Children's Hospital. So Deb, I want to give a big thank you for that as well. We usually close out at 12, but I got one more question because I'm curious. But we also need to talk about, what do we need to talk about? We need to talk about the book, Reasons to Believe. Don't laugh. Don't laugh, Gary. I'm going to embarrass you, because March 24th, we are going to drive this to #1 on Amazon. Go right now and join the launch team. You join the launch team right now. Takes you half a second to fill it out. Go do it. You will get a link on the 24th to the book, to the Amazon store, to Kindle for $1.49. So instead of sending me the super chats for the kids, send me the super chats because they do go to the kids. But give the super chats, but take that super chat instead. Go get the book. Tell a friend. Tell a relative. You don't have to be a Giant fan, because this isn't a book that is Gary, of course, played for the Giants. He's also in the College Football Hall of Fame, Emmy Award winner, talks about life, talks about a philosophy, the reasons to believe. So I want you guys to go out there and join that right now. We're going to be promoting it all week up to the 24th. 164 people that are still watching. This John Harbaugh has come in now and is trying to renew hope for this Giant team, for this Giant organization that has been in the doldrums since, really since that last Super Bowl. I mean, we've gone through a myriad of coaches. We have gone through, we've talked about Pat Shermer. We talked about, we talked about Ben. We've talked about, of course, Joe Judge. We've talked about every coach that, Brian Dable most recently, but we never had a guy, and I've talked about this before, we've never really had a guy come in that has recently, because I also go back to Dan Reeves, but it really has that cachet. And I was trying to explain to people that in my mind, Harbaugh was almost Parcellian when Parcells left in 90 and then he came back a couple years later. There really hasn't been, to my mind, that big of a coach on the market that the Giants could really go out and get. Is there going to be a culture shift? Is there going to be things done differently now that you have a guy that's coached the Ravens for 18 years, won a Super Bowl, developed Joe Flacco, helped develop Lamar Jackson? Are these Giant players ready for what may be coming? Because I think it's going to be a different mindset and maybe a little bit more of a old school mindset with John Harbaugh coming in.
First and foremost, I think that he is a excellent fit for the job. One of the things that is paramount of any head football coach is when you step in front of that team for the very first time, do you or do you not have the credibility to take that team and guide it to the best of your ability to where Giants fans want to be? And that's obviously into the next Super Bowl. John obviously has the credibility. I think things are going to be a lot different under his culture because there's a level of expectation that John will set and has set, I'm sure, in motion already with what he is expecting and what is he wanting to achieve. He can probably go down my yes framework and really do a lot of things there to just set the level of expectation to what you're trying to achieve and put the structure in place with the resources and tools and everything that the Giants players need to have them be successful to ultimately reach their goal, which is their why. So Y over E over S, the yes framework, you heard it right there. But that's what I think that he's going to do. I think he's going to put some simple things in place to make them be successful. The players are going to look at him the first time that he announces or talks to them as a group at minicamp or whenever the chance may be. It may have already happened. I'm not even sure. But the team will respect him immediately. I did not sense that with the previous groups of coaches that have come through the Giants ranks, really since Tom Coughlin. Tom and Bill, they're of the same cloth. Parcells, I'm talking about. They really are. So when Coughlin joined our staff with the Giants, it was just adding some more like-minded guys. When he was at Boston College, he coached just like Parcells, hard-nosed, tough, everything. And I think that there's going to be some tough love probably have to be shown here by John Harbaugh early on to really show and evidence what the level of expectation is with this team. And there may be some quote example or examples made with that. And those can come in different shapes. They don't have to be in player movements or player changes, but how to get the ear of the players to get them to, I wouldn't say conform, but really come together as a group. And that's what happens for successful teams. Now, the younger players on the New York Giants, starting with Jackson Dart, and what's that fullback's name? That guy, he's just phenomenal. He's a wonderful player. And I'll tell you that when you have guys that bring the juice like they did a year ago, and they were starting off strong, I think that you have something that was kind of magical. People, the Giants fans, could kind of feel that bubbling. But beyond that, they're still emerging. They were an emerging team. I think the Giants overall, they've got personnel on their team now and at the ready that they're just filling some holes now. And then now it's a matter of chemistry, the chemistry of the team coming together to be a cohesive group and pulling all together for the one sole purpose, and that is to win football games. Parcells' job with us was not to be a good best friend. His job was to win football games. John Harbaugh is going to be the same way. He's not going to be there to be a best friend with Jackson Dart or anybody else on that football team. His job is to win football games. It's their job to put that into context that meets every player and where he needs to be met at, Parcells did that on a daily basis, reinforcing those relationships with us in the locker room. I expect that John Harbaugh has something similar in mind, that how he sets the culture of every team, probably very, very similar to that, because it, just kind of, it just needs to happen. The culture needs to come together to be that way. And I did not sense that the players of the Giants have really rallied around, the previous head coaches in recent years in that way. It just did not happen.
Is a good question by James? I have to get a hardcover or a paperback, so I can't read on the Kindle. When is the hardback and paperback coming out at the same time on the 24th?
All three formats will be available on launch day, which is March 24th. So yeah, certainly you'll be able to get a Kindle version or a hardback or a paperback, and you can order those. And all of those formats are part of our contribution to our charitable partner.
We talked about this briefly, but this is another great question. Mr. Reasons, one more question. What are your thoughts when the Giants draft you? Were you nervous? Did you ask yourself, why are they taking me?
Yeah, I did, because I knew the history of the Giants defensive linebackers. And, you're looking at this storied group here. You're talking Brad Van Pelt, Brian Kelly, Harry Carson, and that number 56 guy out there, Lawrence Taylor. Storied linebacker group, but I didn't know that they were moving on from Brian Kelly, moving on from Brad Van Pelt, and hence in comes Gary Reasons and Carl Banks, in 1984. So there was a little bit of, I knew that, but I didn't, I didn't have any impact on where I was drafted or what team took me. So I took it at full face value of, hey, just get your butt to work and get in there and make it happen.
Last question, because I want to make sure we respect your time, because you've been great. You've been here for almost 2 hours. I do want to wrap up at the 2 hour mark, but then again, like I said, everyone go to the launch, join the launch team. It's in the link. It's in the chat. It's going to be everywhere. This new Giants season, what we always ask, and we haven't gone through the draft yet, and I know that, and we haven't finished everything that we're doing with salary cap, and we just signed the wide receiver yesterday. But if you gave an early prediction for this Giant team, where do you think they're going to end up? Right now, the Vegas line, you can check that Vegas line at themightyfanduel.com, fanduel.com, number one sportsbook in America. Don't forget the game responsibly. FanDuel has them at 7.5 wins. And I've said anywhere between 5 to 7. And of course, that was out seeing what we did the draft. Where do you think this Giant team can end up? Can they be a New England Patriot success story and a huge turnaround? Maybe not the Super Bowl, but can they get to 500? Can they potentially make the playoffs?
I think that they have a great opportunity, from the talent that's on the team to the leadership that's new there. If they can come together and rally around Coach Harbaugh and really the structure of what's being developed there now, I think that they can. So how fast does that culture come together? How fast do the players adopt the new system, offense, defense, or not so much systems, but really just the terminology and the verbiage of how it's conveyed? And there's a level of trust. The players have to have trust in the staff and vice versa, that they're going to be able to be successful in whatever they're trying to accomplish out there. And what is the identity of the New York Football Giants going to be from day one? What is that identity going to be? I think that is still yet to be written, but I would hope that it would be physical toughness. First, take care of business in the NFC East, and whatever else happens after that. But if you can win the NFC East, you've done something, because you've got some pretty good talented football teams that are emerging there and have been at the top. And the Giants have been, looking up at those guys. So it's your work is still trying to be successful in the NFC East first. So I think that there's an opportunity for the Giants to have some really good times ahead. I would put them easily at a 8 to 9 win, 8-win season, maybe a 9-win season, and it wouldn't surprise me if it got higher, because of what I think that John Harbaugh brings to the table, which is a level of respect, and guys are going to buy into what he's selling.
We're going to close this out, and of course, we're going to talk about the book before we leave. But we always ask this question of guests at the end, and it doesn't have to be football related. And actually, you are probably the perfect guest to ask this question. If there is a piece of advice, if there is a nugget of information that doesn't have to be football related that you could pass on to the 173 people that are still watching, what would Gary Reason's thought of the day be on this Sunday? It doesn't have to be, like I said, it could be anything. Just we always ask, what are you going to leave us with right now that Gary wants us to know, not only as football fans, but as people in general?
Well, I'm going to give you a gift. And the gift is simply this. It's a very affirmative word. It's a positive word. It's a word we call yes. Yeah, it's a positive word. Yes, it means yes, you're going to move forward. It's all good. You like it. Yes. But I'm going to teach you something. One way to look at yes. Look at it as Y over E over S. Okay, vertical, Y-E-S. Where Y is not just the start of the word, but it's your why. What is your why? What is your objective? What is your goal? And E are expectations. Those are the things that you have to achieve to meet your why. So those are the expectations, Y over E. And then S at the bottom, think of it that way. This is structure. Structure is foundational. It's the tools, the resources, the people, all the different things that need you to meet your expectations and also to meet your why. So that's the gift that I would give you guys. And think of that as it's a structured way, the word yes. I call it the yes framework. And I think that this is something very powerful for anybody to take into life, into whatever they do, whether it's in business, whether it's in school, whether it's in sports. Use the word yes to be your guiding light to achieve and to be able to achieve and to reach and meet your goals and objectives. So you can set that to anything that you want to do, but think of the word yes. And so when I bring this into the education market and try to use this into elementary schools and middle schools and even into high schools, we'll use a different part of it. But in that concept, we're going to use the yes framework, and we're going to turn yes into a verb. You heard that right. We're going to turn yes into a verb. I'm going to teach this methodology to where people are going to say, hey, let's yes that concept, or let's yes that. When we talk about yesing a goal or objective, that's the verbiology that I want to come up with, and it becomes a verb. So take it to that you heard it here, that the yes framework and the yes can be your affirmation of a very positive word, used a little bit differently, Y over E over S, to achieve anything and to achieve your goals.
And of course, this is Gary Reasons to Believe. The new book comes out March 24th. You join the launch team now. You will get the link on the 24th for the Kindle version. The hard copy and the paperback version is going to also be available. Kindle version, though, $1.49. It's not just about football. It's about life. It's about a philosophy. It's something that you can use in your everyday. And like I said, I am super excited that this is coming out. I cannot personally wait to read it. I was hoping I would get like an early link, but that's okay. I asked Gary before he came on, is it available now? Because I would like to read it before it came out. But Gary, like I said, we really do appreciate you hanging out for so long, as much you did, not only talking about the Giants, not only talking about the new book that's coming out March 24th, but just talking about life in general. And it's like I said, everyone, make sure you go right now, join the launch team. And if you don't join the launch team right now, I'm not going to be upset much. But we're trying to drive Gary to #1 bestseller, #1 on Amazon. So make sure you do that. This is Tim. This is New York Giants Trade Talk on the Believe Network, brought to you by the Mighty FanDuel, here with Gary Reasons. Gary, don't go away for a second. I'm going to close out and but I'm going to talk to you for 15 seconds afterwards. Anything else you want to say before we go?
No, it's been a great time, great visit here this morning, and go Big Blue, and we're behind you guys, and everybody come take a look at Reasons to Believe. You'll get a lot out of it. Thanks.
All right. Appreciate it, guys. And as always, we'll see everyone on Monday.